We're really excited to be talking today about a new flow feature called dynamic questions. And a dynamic question is basically a question where a click by a user on the parent question causes some child questions to open up. And depending on what's clicked, different questions might show and different questions might hide. And there's all sorts of advantages in creating a compelling user experience for one of these. But traditionally, they've been very hard to set up and have required code and programming. And so we wanted to bring a way so that Lightning Flow users could do this without any code, without any programming whatsoever. And so we'll show you how effective and easy it is to use a dynamic question. And when I'm actually, if we take a look here, you can see there's a mistake in the example I'm showing you. The question's asking about keeping your old account open. So when the user clicks on no, there's some questions about how to handle the closing account and what are the reasons for closing, and that's all fine. But notice that if the customer says they do want to keep their old account open, we're asking another closing question. And that's wrong. This question about primary reason for closing should only show when the user clicks no and should not show when the user clicks yes. So we're going to go fix that right now. And here's the flow. And if we pop this open, you'll see that the screen that we were looking at only has one thing on it. And that is a new kind of component that you can drag onto a flow screen component, also known as a lightning component. And here we've created it and we've given it a name, and we're pointing it at a lightning component that's installed into our org. And later on, you'll find out how you can install this without having to actually write any code yourself. But the real magic's happening down here. And you can see that here we have two fields, two attributes, dynamic no fields and dynamic yes fields. And these are crucial because these are where you tell Flow which child controls you want to show. And you can see the way it's set up right now is it's set up to show list box 1 and text field 1 if the user clicks no, and radio button 1 if the user clicks yes. And you can see that's exactly how it's being interpreted. Here is list box 1, here's text field 1, and then over here on yes is radio button 1. So all we have to do is move radio button 1 from yes to no, and the order is determined by the order of things. So if we want the radio button to come first, we put it in front of the line like that, and we're good. And we'll go back and take a look at those other attributes in a minute, but first let's take a look and verify that we have successfully rearranged our dynamic question. So we go back here, let's start this over, add another using our cool little action list. This is something in Pilot that you'll be seeing soon. And here now when we click on no, you can see that the radio buttons are there in the no answer, and they are in the order that we want, and that's pretty darn cool. So let's take a look at a few of the other things that you can do with dynamic questions and a few of the other ways that you can configure them. We looked at dynamic no and we looked at dynamic yes, and there are some other important things here. Parent question text is crucial. You've got to have that parent question, and it's got to be a radio button with a yes and no answer. Those are some limits of this version of dynamic question. And then you can see that there are labels for the radio button, the list box, and the text field corresponding to these three controls that we've requested. And then for the radio button and for the list box, you can see there are also strings that tell Flow what choices to put. But one of the things that's kind of exciting about this is that each of these dynamic questions is independent, so you can stack them. You can add multiple ones. So let's add another one. Here you can see I'm dragging from Lightning component over. If you should be able to do this if you're running Spring 18 Salesforce, and that's only just rolling out to sandboxes. So if you don't see this, that's probably the reason. And this allows us to select that Lightning component, which, as I mentioned, we've installed previously into our org. And now let's say that we're going to have a second question, and we're going to ask if they want a custom design. So customer wants custom design. And let's make that, so remember this particular flow is being run by the agent. So we're going to make it ask customer if they want custom design. And then if the answer is yes, let's go down. If the answer is yes, let's say that we have two designs to offer them. So if the answer is yes, we want to have a radio button with two choices. So let's go with radio button 4. We could do radio button 1, but I'm just going to show you as a reminder you can have up to 4 of each type of control. And now let's come up with a label for radio 4. And there it is, label for radio 4. And specify custom design. So this is only going to show, remember, if they answer yes to the parent question. So now if they answer yes, we want them to specify the custom design. And so now we have to specify the actual radio button inputs. And so we go down here to radio 4 options input string. And the way you specify these is that you give the label first that you actually want the user to see, and then you give the value that you want sort of passed on to the rest of the flow. So let's say that our two choices are Cody the Bear, and if the user selects the Cody the Bear radio button, we want to store the value Cody. And now I'm going to hit comma and add another choice and say Astro. And now I've got my two radio button choices there, so I'm ready to go there. And the only other thing I have to do is specify my output value, because we need to capture this information and get it out to the rest of the flow and do something interesting with it. So output values, you can see that there are output value attributes for each potential child control. So here's radio 4 output value. And as you may be accustomed to if you've used Flow, what we now want to do is create a place to store that output value so it can be used downstream. So we create a variable called requested custom design, and we will store that here, and needed a little more of a unique name. Someone else must be using requested custom design somewhere else. And so now this variable it'll hold either Cody or Astro, and this will be available downstream for further processing. And so we're basically done. So let's take a look and see that show up. So we'll go here, we'll save our new version of the flow, and we'll activate. And now let's go over here, and to make sure that this isn't cluttered up, let's get rid of these and start with a brand new fresh new credit card request process. And you can see there it is. There is the second dynamic question, and if we click on yes, you can see that the radio button, with only a few entries in Cloudflow Designer, we were able to get this fully usable subordinate dynamic radio button group. And these guys up here, they're still working and doing their thing, and we can fill this all out. And that is dynamic questions, and it's very, very powerful and yet very easy to use. So if you want to install dynamic questions into your org, you can get the installation instructions at this URL. And we wish you the best of luck, and don't hesitate to let us know how you want dynamic questions to evolve going forward. Thank you.